very unique to, I think, Indian coffees, that you probably would never experience this type of flavor profile, and really the presentation of acidity here, very unique to Indian coffees.
So the coffee that we are sharing with xBloom is from Chikmagalur, which is the birthplace of Indian coffee. That's where coffee was grown first back in the late 1600s. And the estate is called Kertikunda Estate. And it's a family-owned estate. They have 2 different farms. Coffee from this farm has always been very consistent year on year, and it really highlights some of the flavors that are classical Indian coffee flavors. So I roast this coffee as a medium light, trying to bring out some of the citric acidity and also some of the peanut and chocolate flavors in the coffee.
Yeah. Well, we're super excited to be working with Tanya and bringing some of these coffees to you guys. Let's go ahead and do some roasting, and then let's talk a bit more about Kaveri.
This is my medium light roast, so I'm trying to bring out some flavors of citrus acidity. It has some nice nutty, peanutty flavors, and keep it on the lighter side so that it's a little brighter coffee. Most Indian coffee is presented as a medium dark or dark roast because Indian coffee has really good body and can withstand heat for a long period of time. So this is contrast to that. I'm trying to showcase lighter roast, a brighter coffee. Here we go. First few minutes is the drying phase. Water gets evaporated from the green beans. As soon as the temperature gets to a good charge temperature, we'll drop the green beans and start the roast. So sometimes you'll hear the crack, but if there's too much noise in the background, it's hard to see. Or you can see the beans, some of them will start opening up and start moving. They call it the dance. This would be what most people would call a medium roast, but in terms of flavor, when you taste it, you'll see that it's lighter bodied, kind of like skim milk or 1% milk, and then has a more citrusy kind of taste to it. This is looking good to me.
So what's kind of the history of Kaveri? How did you end up here in the Bay Area, and what is the backstory?
Yeah, absolutely. So being a coffee professional is actually my 3rd career. When I started, I was a software programmer, worked in the finance industry, got quickly burnt out and jaded with that. And then I moved on to outdoor education and recreation and travel. I love to travel and love to be in the outdoors, and this was a way of bringing my passion of the outdoors in a more educational and interactive, experiential way. So I did that for a decade, and when I was looking to start a business, my own business in 2019, it was in the field of outdoor and experiential education. But I kind of segued and got off that track and down the coffee track because partly my inspiration to start a business came from my father, who ran our coffee business all his life. He started in the business when he was 18 and kind of led the families, and so he has always been a role model and an inspiration for me. And sitting in coffee shops thinking of a business plan and smelling that coffee, it kind of all reminded me of where I came from and what was my inspiration to start a business of my own, and having found this niche and opportunity to bring Indian coffee to coffee lovers in the Bay Area, it just kind of fit almost synergetically that's what I would do. So I went off on a tangent, taking all my past careers and experience and running my own small business in coffee. And it weaves together so many different parts of who I am and my history into this profession, because part of it is just about building community, bringing people together, having a sense of commonality, but also sharing our own individual cultures through coffee. So coffee is kind of like that vehicle.
All right, we're now in the kitchen. Let's go ahead and brew some coffee. So what coffee do we have here?
Great. We have a coffee from an estate called Kunda Estate. It is in the Chikmagalur region of India, the birthplace of coffee in India. And I have roasted this as a medium light. Most Indian coffee, as we talked about before, is known for like mild to medium acidity. So a lot of that acidity is sort of lost when it's roasted, dark. So I'm roasting this coffee medium light to maintain some of that citrus acidity. This coffee is grown in a farm where they have pepper vines and citrus fruits, and I think it tastes great on the xBloom, because the xBloom is really like delicate in the way it brews, and it's able to maintain some of that citrus acidity.
All right, let's go ahead and brew some coffee.
Here we go.
All right, so we have finished brewing and we got our coffee here. And this is just a very unique coffee. I feel like this type of flavor profile is just incredibly different to what most people are used to when they think about something like a medium light or like a lighter roast coffee. Tasting this is so interesting, where it is body, incredibly smooth. There is an orange acidity to it, like a slight citrus acidity to it, but it's not like an incredibly sharp acidic presentation that you would find with other coffees.
Yeah.
And that's something that's very unique to, I think, Indian coffees, that you probably would never experience this type of flavor profile and really the presentation of acidity here in other coffees. And I think that's something that's very unique to Indian coffees. And it's just incredibly approachable too. Like, this is a coffee that I think many people can drink. And that's kind of my take on the Indian coffee profile so far. It's very unique.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. So most of the time, and even as I got started, tasting and cupping coffee, the first sort of thought and description comes to my mind as this being a very earthy, kind of grounding, it's the product of earth, so it's a very earthy and grounding coffee. And then I find as it cools, you start getting all these other nuanced flavor. So I went with a medium light roast for this coffee. It tastes great roasted anyway, but the medium light really shone bright.
One thing that I am noticing as this cools down is the body and structure of acidity is still there. It's really, really holding up, but it's not becoming very acidic that, like, some coffees, when they are roasted fairly light, this acidity becomes almost overwhelming.
Right.
Because there's this earthiness to it, it's still held together, and this creates a very complex cup, but it's not like bitter at all. It doesn't have this crazy sharp acidity to it. It's just really enjoyable to drink, and this is something so unique about Indian coffees, and we are so happy to be working with Tanya here to be bringing these coffees to you guys, because this is some incredibly fascinating and unique coffees. Like, you guys really need to try this. It's awesome.
Thank you, Brian.
But we just really want to thank Tanya and Kaveri for partnering with xBloom, because we think these coffees are so unique, and we are very happy presenting to you guys their story as well as their coffees. So we really want to thank you for spending the time to watch the video, as well as thank Tanya for being a part of all of this.
Thank you, Brian, and thanks to Richard and xBloom team for their enthusiasm and support to share our story and our coffees. We're very excited.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right.